All right. So the first person on the list for today is Nami.
Yeah, I'm not finished, so I might have to answer. I'll just say kind of like a summary at the end of what I want to happen that I didn't get to write.
Okay.
In the,
And let me just say before you start, Nami, for everybody, that your sound is not super great right now. And if
hmm,
all of you could slow down a little bit, when in public speaking, it's always best to speak slower than you think is right, and it will end up being right. Okay?
oh, so anyways, I'm not finished, so I might have to at the end. I'll just give a summary on I want, what I was gonna write if I had more time. So in
Okay.
a bright grassy meadow filled with flowers and bumblebees, two people were sitting cross-legged on a picnic blanket. One of them had a picnic basket in her arms. I'll give you everything that you desire. I promise, she said, squinting her eyes against the bright glare of the sun. So you'll bring my family back from the dead? He asked. Yes, she replied. If only you do one more thing for me. What is that? Ande asked. I'm desperate. I'll do anything you want me to. We can make a deal. Sure, Gally said, nodding. Call her. Sorry, my tongue got. It's, it's not a tongue twister, but my tongue got messed up. Kill Hergo. Who's that? Ande asked. A rich king from the land of Zaphinoa. Gally said. He has done evil to the land. He has done more evil unspeakable. Gally picked a strand of grass in the meadow. She twirled it around her fingers before continuing. Last week someone tried to poison the king, and now I'm one of the suspects, even though I was far away from the time of the evil plot. The king already suspects me for doing something. Everyone is keeping a close eye on me. It's a miracle we're not being watched now. But could you kill him for me? Then I would bring magic to bring your family back from the dead. And they nodded. I will. Gally twirled the grass in her fingers. You promise? Promise, Unday replied. Do you have a plan how to do it? Poison, Gally replied. She dropped the strand of grass and opened the picnic basket. Unday took time to study this mysterious figure who, when he was pacing around the meadow in despair for his dead family, had arrived. She had set up a picnic before she made the deal with Unday. Gally had brown hair with a tint of red. In the sunlight her hair turned a red gold. Gally had very sharp facial features. Her nose was pointy, and so was her ears, making her look like an elf. Undine was pretty sure she was a witch. Witches could be good or evil, and had magic. Gally retrieved a perfect-looking crustless sandwich from her basket. Its white bread looked soft and chewy, its cheese solid and sharp, and the lettuce was the greenest lettuce Undine had ever seen. Gally retrieved a duplicate of the sandwich from her bag. She gave one to Undine, who took a bite and proclaimed it was the most delicious sandwich she had ever tasted. When the sun began to set, Gally disappeared, leaving only the picnic basket behind, which contained a bottle of poison. Undine began to get worried. He didn't want to kill anyone. Then Undine spotted some matches in the basket. Matches. Undine shivered. His family had died in a fire. Those matches made him determined to do it. Over the next few weeks, Unday brought a small dragon for him to take with him to Saphinoa, the evil kingdom. Unday also planned out what to do to poison the king. Finally, Unday was ready to go. He rode the dragon all the way to Zaphinoa. When Unday arrived in Zaphinoa, he expected to see overcast gray skies and a downpour of rain, as well as some evil dragons. But he was surprised to see mountains, lakes, and forests, their beauty magnified by the bright sunlight. Unday also passed some wolves, so he finally began to feel safe. But then he realized that he was in a kingdom ruled by an evil king. What would be wolves doing here? Unday wondered. Wolves were good creatures. They never would be wandering around an evil kingdom such as that of Noah. Unday began to get suspicious of Gally. And so then I didn't get to finish it, but basically Gally, the king's actually good and Gally is evil, but she's just manipulating Unday.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Um, what you have here, there's a bunch, a bunch of things. So first is there's a lot of sort of big stories. I'm losing the word. iconic stories, the kind of stories that have been written about for thousands of years and will be written about again for thousands of years. You have, of course, this fairy tale structure of good and evil. You have the dragons and iconography, imagery from the standard European fairy tale. But you also have, with the bringing back from the dead, that would certainly um, refer to Jesus, who brought someone back from the dead. So this resurrection, not Jesus himself, but his bringing Lazarus back. That is a storyline that you've mentioned. Making a deal. There's a story called Dr. Faustus. It's been written by several people, starting in the 1600s, and Faustus is where someone will make a deal with, essentially a deal with the devil. Dr. Faustus does. He get great wisdom, and he thinks he's going to have eternal life and trick the devil. So that's another sort of big story inside this. Um, I liked the specific description. So this is moving away from the hero anti-hero. Um, Gary has brown hair, a touch of red, and you talk about how it shines in the sun. Um, the nice little touches of the piece of grass that she's wrapping around the finger. So really throughout all, and this is really fabulous and a strength in really everybody's writing in this group, is you do keep track of your characters and you do place them in real or unreal settings, but settings that we can visualize and imagine you could make a movie of. So I think that's really nice. I liked sort of this otherworldly, we're in this sort of magical world, there's dragons, that, the lettuce was greener than green and the bread was softer than soft. Um, and of course, a great hint, a great hint is you've got the wolves that we associate with evil and here associated with good. And you're saying, well, why would there be this good creature in this land of evil, if it was evil, sort of, which suggests sort of a hint of what you're saying. So thank you very much. That was really well done. And Connor, if you would like, should we alternate back and forth, Connor?
I have to go soon, but I'm happy to do the next one. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So next up is Caden.
Okay, so I wrote this character. I wrote him before. I wrote about him before, like a few workshops ago. But I said I write about him again because he kind of fits the the anti-hero. So okay, pull up there. Okay, I have not thought of a title for it, but this is just what it is. Mjord Gertenshard crept along an underground passage. The stone was gunky and smelled awful. Nothing like Mistress Leffendor's office. Mjord glanced at the tattoo on his fingertip, the tattoo that showed his misservice to the mistress. Best no one sees this, he thought. They would know immediately. Mjord felt along the wall for the correct place. Stone and steel could not stop an oiler from breaking in. Everyone thought all the oilers were under the command of Kellanite, the man who had somehow decided that he was right to rule. But they were wrong. Mjord was not bound to Kellanite. He was bound to the Mistress Leffendor. The mistress had the best assassin and oiler, and Mjord was proud of it. It's time to show this Kellanite fellow just what he's dealing with, Mjord thought, splashing oil on the stone wall. Mjord covered his hands in the stuff and began melting the tunnel wall into the melting a tunnel into the rock as if it were putty. Oilers were the most useful of all people, Mjord often thought to himself. He knew exactly where Kellanite slept. All he had to do was draw the blade and strike. Soon Kellanite would be no more. Mjord burst out at the other end of the wall, silent as a mouse. He drew his blade. There was Kellanite, sleeping like no one would dare hurt him. Mjord nearly chuckled. The resistance could be so careless sometimes. Mjord oiled his hands again from the bottle on his belt, just in case. He hopped cat-like toward the bed. He raised his blade, glancing at the tattoo showing his allegiance to the mistress. Then he swung his blade down. There was a whooshing sound. Then Mjord found himself trapped on the ground, a stone holding him in place. A stoner. Mjord was even more surprised when he saw that the stoner who had stopped his blade in midair with a pebble was an 11-year-old girl. Mjord used his oil to break through the rock. He tried to leap up, but before he could, the little girl raised her fingers just a little slightly. A small pebble flew from her shirt pocket. It struck Mjord on the head. The last thing he heard was the girl saying, "You're from the mistress, aren't you? Don't you realize what you're doing?" Then everything went black.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. It was really wonderful. So here are a few things that I want to say about it. First of all, the thing that I like most about this piece is that there is a kind of conflation between the character Mjord himself and the place where we see him. So there is a kind of collapsing between character and setting in such a way that the setting of the story allows us to see into the mind or even the soul of the character himself. We see Mjord trudging through this kind of dark, cavernous place, this cave, a kind of tunnel. It's described. We first see the very first thing that Mjord does is creep. That's the first verb that comes into the story. He is creeping. So there's this kind of underground, very kind of creepy motion that's taking place. The landscape is described as dark, stony, gunky. So we have a sense of character already in the description of place. Then we get the assassin in the act of assassinating, and there's a kind of conflict that takes place. There's all these verbs of motion that come in to the writing at the end: raised, swung, flew, etc. So there's all these verbs of motion kind of come together to clash into one another and create this scene of conflict and tension. Those are some of my favorite things about the story, that I thought it was very effective in terms of creating an anti-hero. The relationship between the exterior world, the external world, and the mind and the personality of the character was really great, I thought.
Thank you.
All right. So let's go next to Sadie.
So I just wrote a little bit about like how I was kind of an anti-heroes. Like I was very annoying when I was little, so to my brother, so especially. So like when I was very young, I was more of an anti-hero because I would not listen to my parents, and I would do anything on purpose to make my brother furious and mad. Then I was kind of hero when I grew up. Here's one example of me being an anti-hero. So my family and I were in the car, and I had a bad day already. I was poking my brother on the arm. My brother just kept on saying, "Stop, stop, stop, stop." I kept on doing the poking, poke, 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 poke on his arm. Then finally my dad said, "Just ignore her." While I was poking, because while I was poking him, I made it more mean. I said, "Ignore me, Silas," who's my brother. While I was poking him, and of course, I did not know how to pronounce ignore. I thought it was funny. Then when we got home, I got in big trouble, but I didn't care.
Okay, very, very nice. And I really like this looking into one's own self and asking the question, am I a hero? Am I an anti-hero? Am I always a hero? Am I always an anti-hero? Or I think in this case, well, sometimes, sometimes I'm not you know, I'm not heroic. I am an anti-hero. Um, in I loved this repeating of the words. Um, I I kept poking, sort of poke, poke, poke. He kept saying stop, 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 but I kept poke, 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 and and that's a nice literary form. A literary device is this kind of repetition of a word, and and even something I use this sometimes is to add it one more time or two more times than would be normal, to really emphasize that yeah, 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 um, is good. Um, and that you would do something and be self-aware, that the character is self-aware enough to recognize that in this case she does something to even make the badness badder, to actually being consciously mean. And um and you know, a mean character is certainly not something that we admire, but the persistence, the cleverness is something we do associate with the hero. So it's sort of skills of the hero, but reversed. So thank you very, very much. It's a nice little evocation of sibling rivalry. Well done. That's right, Nova. You've got it. I'm sure you're a terror. All right.
All
back
right.
back to Sarah.
Next up is Rachel.
I made mine in different perspectives. Mia's perspective. Please, Lou begs. Please, please, please. It's only $20. Too soon, my mom relents and hands her $20. As soon as she's gone, I turn to my mom. Come on, Mom, you have to stand your ground, I say. If she wants money, she can find a job. She has an able body. She just looks at me as if to say, what do I do? Just say no, I tell her. Just refuse to give her your money. You're her mom. She has no right to take things from you. She's 14. Are you really going to let your 14-year-old daughter push you around like that? My mom is silent, and for a minute I think she's going to cry, but then she just shakes her head and walks out of the room. Mom's perspective. My oldest daughter is kneeling in front of me, begging for $20. It's just $20, I think. I might as well give it to her. I hand her the money, and she's so happy, but I'm not. Lou's perspective. It's just $20, I say, and I'll never ask for anything ever again. My little sister Mia rolls her eyes, and she gives me the look that she always does when I say that. I just glare at her. My mom looks down at me helplessly, and looking so tragically sad that I almost stop begging, she hands me the money.
Wow. Okay, Rachel, that's fantastic. I guess you, I don't know if you were in the classes, but I think you know I've spoken about sort of duets and parallel narratives, um, so that you have a narrative here from two different perspectives, or really multiple, even three, because while the mother doesn't speak so much, um, you know, you do give us a sense of how she feels. So I think that is fabulous. And again, I'm not talking about the hero anti-hero now, but just sort of writing in general, this showing the same thing from different perspectives. And I think Connor had shown that slide of a Picasso face where the nose is like this, and you know the ears might be out like this. You know that we're looking not at this single plane that you see right here, but something that accentuates different angles all at the same time. And you've done you and that's the approach that you've taken here. So I really like that. So I just want to call that out.
Yeah, and I'd like to add something to that. I liked the use of the different perspectives as well, because that gives another, because the anti-hero is often kind of skating on the edges of things and sort of crossing some lines and not others, and so showing different perspectives does that in another way at the same time, which is beyond just the character. So I thought that was really really nice too.
Yes, thank you, Jane. Um, and it's funny because it's sort of you just followed another sort of sibling situation. But of course, I am just like the mother here. I would just turn over the $20, um, and and but I have an only child, so there's nobody else to say, William, what are you doing? She's able-bodied. Um, um, I like the tensions that you develop, between the characters, with them, having very different response, which sort of saying the same things again, um, and um, and I like it's sort of interesting, sort of seeing anti-hero in the way a person is sort of manipulating in normal life, in normal life, and I think that is that's really smart because sort of every day can be a day that's morally complex, and we shift in and out of being heroic and being manipulative and selfish, and sort of dominating when we probably shouldn't be. So thank you very much, Rachel.
Thank you.
Excellent work.
All right. Next up is Lindsay.
So this story, the anti-hero that I wrote is sort of just a hero with a bunch of flaws. So yeah. The night was quiet. A shadow quietly slipped through the grass. Laughter could be heard from a building not that far away. The shadow narrowed its eyes and raced to the building, determined that this time he wouldn't fail. The door to the ballroom flew open. Couples dancing and laughing froze. Everyone, on your hands and knees. Now. The man in the doorway gave them all an intimidating glare. They did as they were told, too frightened to disobey. Not so fast. It was another voice now. Everyone in the room turned around, and simultaneously their eyebrows reached for the sky. A young girl around the age of 9 was standing there. She wore rubber pink rain boots, black shorts with orange paint splattered all over them, a red shirt, and a pink towel as a cape. She also had a water gun in her hands. The man snorted. What? I wanted to tell you that me and my hamster Puffball will be stopping you tonight, she said. Her chest puffed out. A small squeak sounded from a pocket in her shorts. Oh, sorry. Puffball Dumplings, the amazing, awesome hamster, and me will be stopping you. We are superheroes. Everyone in the ballroom froze and stared at her. The thief snorted. Kid, there's no way you can stop me. The girl was very defiant, dousing him with water. Then she realized it didn't do anything but make him angry. Oh, crud, he didn't melt, she muttered under her breath. Just then, someone grabbed the man from behind, threw a net over him, and he was caught. Lucy, the girl who had caught the man yelled. What? The guy was going to win. You shouldn't try to defeat him by yourself. But I want to be a hero like you and help people. How can you help people, Lucy, if you can't even help yourself? That cut the deepest into the wannabe superhero, and she raced away, a blur of tears and sadness. So
Hold on. Okay, really nice. Again, good descriptions. Just stepping back from the superhero, because if you make a superhero and it's in the middle of nothing, it doesn't really work. And you have really a good sense of place, a wonderful opening. There's grass. It's nighttime. You've got the shadow slipping over it, and all of that is really implied. This outdoor scene, by the talk about the shadows. So, and that is the best way to tell a story, is you just tell the story. I loved the dominance. The door flies open, the couples are frozen, and this person shouts out something that causes everyone to be fearful. So you had a very good command of your characters, who had good command over there, establishing him as obviously a bad person. One thing that you've done that I think that I think we haven't heard yet before is you've attached a mannerism to this evil person. He snorts. He's disrespectful. He's constantly, you know, of course you can't stop me, but he just has this sort of condescending um, mannerism, and that makes him feel more real. Um, it's especially difficult to create these kind of scenes that don't come out as being totally cartoon. I mean, here you've got, this guy. He commands the room. You've got this little girl who's dressed in pink and claims to have a magical hamster. It's on the face of it. It's ridiculous. It's easy for that to be one dimensional, but you've used language that actually makes them alive and makes us care and makes us be interested. And I think the gesture is one of those things. So congratulations with that. Um, and then like this Lucy just coming up and throwing the net, but it's what I guess it's not part of the plan, right? She's not working, not working together, and, and just sort of bypasses it, which also kind of kind of makes fun of the little girl who's going to be the hero with her hamster because she's kind of grandstanding, and the other person says, "Oh, come on, let's shut this down." So a really nice thing. And remember, these are projects where you're just writing for 30 minutes, and so this has a nice beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a delightful little piece. So thank you very much.
Is Lucy the older sister of the superhero wannabe? Actually, right. I think yeah, she's the superhero wannabe actually.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
right. Well, it is technically 10:30, so for those of you that have to leave, thank you for joining us, but we'll stay to hear the last two people on the list. And the next person on that list is Julia.
Okay. Uh, I'm still continuing my old story. So from last week, I think. I like to continue my story because it's not yet finished. Let me see. So here, suddenly a woman turned to look at the girl. Oh, hi, Miss Moon. I did not notice you. Matthew and I were just playing hide and seek. Don't worry, I will find him. I thought you were scolding Amanda. The woman glared at this girl, then replied, Now, Clara, even though I'm scolding Amanda, you should be back at school. The bombs are about to be set, and you better find Matthew. And you better find Matthew. I will go find Matthew in this alley. This is a forbidden alley. What are you doing? Clara, it's forbidden because there's a monster. But a loud scream interrupted what Miss Moon was saying. Come on now, you. I will handle Matthew, and you go back to the school. And I mean the school. Clara sighed. She walked towards the building and met with three others. So how did it go, Clara? Can you finally join the war? Hide the guns they use. It won't be able to fight terrible King Alan. I'm sick and tired of walking to school instead of riding like all those rich people, all those taxes. Wait, where's Matthew? Sophie asked. Everybody turned to Clara for an answer. Well, we were supposed to go to the palace, right? Because we passed by the forbidden alley. Matthew decided to go and stop. Why don't we just send another? No, we have to know about the king and his plans. Let's send Sophie and Amanda. While I stay here and pretend to be by the bathroom while robots to replace me. So Sophia and Amanda both went to the palace while the other girl, Emily, helped Clara build two robots. Amanda dressed up as a beggar, and Sophie put on guards extra armor. Amanda first went inside and Your Majesty, I am a poor beggar, and I need a place to stay for the night. Could you please give me an extra room? Return, I will tell you fortune. So King Alan agreed. The next morning, King Alan was ready for the fortune telling. Let's see. If you don't tell the whole story of your plan to your military and your guards, then they will get everything wrong. So you must tell them the truth of your plan. Then your queen may revolt, so you must put high protection on her. So the king agreed. Sophie came in as a guard. The king found out that they were actually schoolgirls, so he told them what they were supposed to do. One day, Amanda went to Sophie and said, Sophie, if we help the king, we might be able to be rich and we can stay in his palace. What do you think? Sophie stopped for a while and said, but we will be betraying Miss Myrna and Clara. Amanda also thought for a while and said, but we can earn fortune for our family. We can get gold and live in this palace if we fight with the honest King Alan. And Sophie was finally convinced. When King Alan heard this, he smiled. He finally could take over the world and raise the taxes with these girls and give them gold and help their family. Which to him was a very simple. And then I stopped there.
Okay, all right. Sometimes you were breaking up, so I had a hard time of following it in completely. So this again is a story that works with a paradigm with a story that has been used before and is going to be used again, and it's a very nice one. The stranger who is the fortune teller who is invited into one's house, or in this fairy tale context, into the kingdom. And there's a lot of little sort of magical bits, passing the secret, the forbidden alley, the dressing up in the costume, the extra armor, for one of them, and I guess they become. Is this right, Sophie? Julia. They sort of help the king in a weird way. How is it that they help the king turns out to be evil, take over the world? How does that?
Because they're actually helping this group of schoolgirls who want to help the war, because they think that the war is just the people who are revolting against the king are just using these, I don't know, very bad ideas. So they just decided to go to this palace and write these plans and then tell everybody and then have them, because the king is actually a very evil person who wants to take over the world and raise the taxes for the rich and himself.
Yes. So they're the heroes. He's the anti-hero, and they're trying to.
No, I think it might be like that. It might look like that, but I think that he's the antagonist, and then Amanda, Sophie, only Amanda and Sophie are the anti-heroes. Okay. Because they think that if they help this king, they will be able to earn their family some fortune and they can get rich and.
Right. Okay. So they're working with it. Okay, great. So it broke up. There was a point where it broke up. So very, very nice. So they come in and they're worming their way in order to actually be part of the evil king's scheme to help themselves. Thank you very much. Really nice. Well done. And we have one more story. Is that right, sir?
Yes, we have one more person, and that is Charlotte.
Hi. Sorry I can't have my camera on. It's actually not working today, but
okay.
This is my story. Mila raked her hair into a knot, keeping one hand hovering over the dagger by her waist. Her eyes darted, always suspicious. She'd learned never to let her guard down, especially as a girl in a land sculpted to serve only men. She was a target. She'd also learned that in order to keep people away, she had to scare them away. One man approached now, staggering and grinning filthily, eyeing the bulging sack of money dangling from her free hand with a familiar, hungry look in his eyes. Hi, he said, lifting an eyebrow, his hand creeping closer to her coins. Mila drew her dagger slowly, a dangerous grin stretching across her face. Hi, she said, and just as his fingers closed around the money, she thrust the dagger toward him. The coins dropped. He backed slowly away, the grin now melted. She'd grazed his arm where there was now a gash. She smiled wider. He pivoted on one heel, whimpering in pain, and ran away. But Mila was not finished with him. She chased him down an alley and cornered him, dagger clutched tightly in her hand. She kept grinning through it all to hide her fear. Empty your pockets. What? The man, visibly shaking, inched slowly around her. She brought the dagger closer. Your coins, empty your pockets. She surveyed as he turned out his pockets, and the coins, glimmering silver and copper, spilled out. Now you better go. She flashed him a quick smile as he dashed away, still whimpering. Mila wondered if she should feel any remorse, though she didn't. Just as when she passed the old sullen woman leaning against the alley's brick, cheekbones so carved and prominent against burnt skin, and voice so feeble and desperate, if she should offer any money. But she walked past, speeding her stride up only a little to smother any sympathy that should surface. She wondered if she should be able to lie like she did. Invented words slipping from her lips like water from a faucet, fast and easy. She did question sometimes, but she was, after all, a woman in a man's world. A world meant for lying, murder, and violence. Even if it meant doing harm, it was a duty to herself to fit in. The end.
Okay, Charlotte, that is brilliant. Really, really great. Thank you very much. Really, really great. So, of course, the woman in the man's world, that's what many of you are going to be. The world is getting to be more and um, more feminist, more place for you, but you still, as you know, and read in the paper, there's still big aspects of the world that does, is unfortunately still a man's world, and it's getting better. It's gonna be way better when you're my age. Um, but this is a common thing where you need to negotiate as a woman within this man's world. And what personality do you choose? And choosing this aggressive personality, I'm going to fight, I'm going to be strong, then that's a strategy, um, and it is a common strategy. Um, I and it is a strategy that, of course, brings the potential for moral corruption. And you have described perfectly this thing where she gets the money, she hold the guy threatens her, but she actually was really strong and brave, and she robs him, and he was trying to rob her. But then she's got this money, and she passes this poor old soul. And I, I'm not going to ask you to raise hands, but I'm sure many of you have experienced this, where you pass a street person and you speed up. Well, I'll ask you, how many of you have done that? Show of hands, who've just changed the street, moved on. Madeline has, I have, we all have. Now, I will say that in my own real true life, I give money a lot to beggars, a lot, and I always figure that if they don't really need the $5 or the $1, that I have enough that doesn't matter to me. But if they really need the money, it will mean something to them. So this is super realistic, and that is the strength, and why I want to mention back to making the journals, the strength of working in a journal and making notes of observations of how of what you see, how you behave, how you see other people behave, is to create that kind of reality. Because I would say that gesture where she is shows to be morally compromised. I mean, robbing the guy who was trying to rob her, will give her a pass. But couldn't she have given a coin to that woman? So that was brilliant. I really think was really, really nice. Um, I'll just say last little bit is I really liked how you really followed through on the interactions between her and the guy that was trying to rob her. his fingers. I mean, you really got some visualization here. She's doing this, he's doing this, she does this, and ends up being dominant. So very nice. So thank you for the stories. Thank you for the readings, Madeline. Thank you for that prompt and for that wonderful, insightful presentation. So we'll see you all at book group next week, and then the reading, and then we'll have the new sessions. So thank you all. It's been wonderful teaching you again. I just feel so inspired by your writing. So much of it is just um, really awe-inspiring. And
We should thank Maddie again before we go for
okay, so,
really leading a wonderful class.
so thanks again, Maddie, and you're all welcome to teach a class again. So thank you.